welcome to the chosen ones, those set apart, called out, and marked by heaven for a divine assignment on earth. You didn't stumble across this by accident. You are here because destiny is calling your name. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you're under attack? Not just physically or emotionally, but spiritually, like something unseen is trying to drain your strength, cloud your focus, and sabotage your purpose? So you're not imagining it. There's a reason the warfare intensifies when you're walking in alignment with God's will. And today I'm going to tell you exactly why the devil fights you so hard and how you can stand victorious every time. You're not just in a fight, you are in a strategic battle for your destiny, but you're not alone. Heaven backs you, and I'll show you how to activate that power. So lean in, stay with me till the end, because what I'm about to reveal will shift your perspective, strengthen your spirit, and awaken your calling. If this message speaks to your soul, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more revelations made just for the chosen ones. Before money ever disappears from your account, before your pantry runs dry, before the eviction notice lands on your door, poverty begins its attack in the mind and spirit. Poverty is not just about the lack of material wealth. It is a spiritual infestation that masquerades as financial hardship. And the greatest mistake believers make is fighting poverty with jobs, hustle, and government programs alone. When it takes a psalm to destroy a spirit, Psalm 23 is not just poetic literature, it is warfare language. It opens with a declaration that breaks the backbone of lack. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Those words are not passive. They are defiant. They are holy rebellion against the invisible grip of poverty. This psalm immediately confronts the root cause of lack, not with dollars, but with divine identity, because poverty at its core is an identity crisis. The enemy convinces you that you are abandoned, that God does not see, that provision must be chased. David, a man who had slept in caves, hunted by kings, and yet raised to royalty, declares boldly, I lack nothing, not because I have money, but because I have a shepherd. When you understand that, you are no longer a beggar in prayer. You become a son or daughter claiming an inheritance. Let me tell you a story. A woman named Felicia once sat in my office. Her family was drowning in debt. Utilities were being shut off. Her husband had lost his job. She had been praying, fasting, budgeting, but nothing changed. I asked her one question: who is your provider? She paused, and after a long silence, she said, my job? Well, my husband's job. I opened my Bible to Psalm 23 and read it aloud. Tears welled up in her eyes. I said, your shepherd has not left you, but you've been trying to be your own provider. That day, something shifted in her, not in her bank account, but in her belief. Within 3 weeks, her husband received a job offer he hadn't applied for. A local church paid their utility bills without being asked. Groceries were delivered anonymously to their doorstep. Was it magic? No. It was the power of broken agreement with a lying spirit. The spirit of poverty lost its grip when her spirit aligned with Psalm 23. And I say it again, poverty is not the absence of money. It is the absence of revelation. When you don't know who your shepherd is, you walk like an orphan in a wealthy father's house. Notice this psalm doesn't say, the Lord gives me what I want. No, it says, I shall not want. That's deeper. It's not about gifts. It's about governance. When the Lord is your shepherd, your wants are managed, your needs are anticipated, and your provision is sustained. Look at how sheep operate. Sheep don't budget. They don't sow seed. They don't apply for loans. They simply follow the shepherd. That's not a call to laziness. It's a call to order. God didn't design you to chase provision. He designed provision to chase you. In Deuteronomy 28:2, it says, all these blessings shall come on you and overtake you if you obey the voice of the Lord. That's shepherd language. That's Psalm 23 in action. The spirit of poverty reverses that. It causes you to chase blessings that were meant to chase you. And that's why the first line of this psalm is so dangerous to the enemy. When you begin to confess and believe that the Lord is your shepherd, you tear down every altar of fear, stress, and striving that poverty has built in your home. If you're a parent, the greatest inheritance you can give your children is not a savings account. It is a revelation of the shepherd. Because wherever they go in life, whether they work a 6-figure job or wash dishes, they will know my source is not this paycheck. My source is my shepherd. Now, let me challenge you today. Before you ask God for a breakthrough in your bank account, ask him for a breakthrough in your belief system. Recite Psalm 23 until it moves from your lips to your heart, from your heart to your decisions, because once you know who your shepherd is, poverty can no longer seduce you with fear. This is the psalm that destroys poverty, not just in your wallet, but in your household, your thinking, and your legacy. There is something radical about this line from Psalm 23, he makes me lie down in green pastures. It's not a suggestion. It's not a casual whisper. It is an intentional act. He makes me lie down, not in dry places, not in rocky terrain, but in green pastures, places of abundance, growth, rest, and renewal. This is a direct confrontation with the spirit of poverty, which thrives on anxiety, overwork, and survival mode. Let's go deeper. Poverty trains you to grind until you die, to believe rest is for the rich, to feel guilty when you pause. It keeps your soul in constant motion, afraid that if you stop, you'll fall apart. But the good shepherd sees the exhaustion in your eyes and says, lie down. There is provision under your feet. Green pastures are not just about having enough to eat. They are a spiritual symbol of peaceful provision. It's not just about the what, it's about the how. He doesn't drop food in a war zone and say, eat fast before the enemy gets you. He creates an atmosphere where you can rest while you are being fed. That's divine economy. I remember counseling a young single mother named Keisha. She was working 3 jobs. Her kids barely saw her. She never had time to pray or rest. She would cry herself to sleep, saying, I'm doing everything I can, and it still feels like I'm drowning. I opened Psalm 23 and asked her one question. Has God ever told you to lie down? Her eyes widened. Yes, she said. But I didn't think I could afford to. That's the deception. Poverty makes rest feel like a risk. It lies and tells you, if you stop, you'll lose everything. But the voice of the shepherd says, if you don't stop, you'll lose yourself. Keisha eventually cut back 1 job, prioritized time with her children in prayer, and within months, her main job gave her promotion and flexible hours. God didn't just provide, he reordered her life around his peace. This is what green pastures represent. Not flashy abundance, but strategic stillness. Provision that doesn't kill your health. Increase that doesn't sacrifice your soul. It's where God teaches you that fruitfulness comes from trusting, not chasing. There's also something powerful in the phrase, he makes me. Sometimes we resist rest, thinking we're being strong. But strength outside of God's pace is weakness in disguise. Many people are spiritually burnt out, not because the devil attacked them, but because they refused to lie down when God said, stop. The spirit of poverty fights this command. It wants your identity to be tied to performance. It whispers, if you rest, people will think you're lazy. It drives you to do more, earn more, prove more. But when you trust the shepherd, you understand that rest is not weakness, it is worship. Look around. Even nature teaches this. Farmers know the land must lie fallow to produce better crops. Muscles must rest after exercise to rebuild strength. Trees go dormant in winter to survive. Even creation honors the rhythm of rest, but poverty wants you to break it. Jesus modeled this. He fed the 5,000, but then he went up the mountain to be alone. He healed crowds, but he still withdrew to pray. The most powerful man on earth paused, not because he lacked power, but because he understood divine rhythm. Here's the truth. Many of us are standing in green pastures, but we're too busy to lie down. We scroll past God's peace looking for man's approval. We keep pushing, burning, and striving while the Spirit is gently saying, stop, rest. Green pastures also mean contentment. They represent a place where God says, you don't have to search anymore. You're home. This demolishes the poverty mindset that keeps you chasing the next thing to feel secure. God is saying, I've already provided. It's here. Lie down. Let me challenge you. When was the last time you paused and allowed God to nourish your soul? When did you last believe that what he provided was enough? Poverty teaches you to hoard. The shepherd teaches you to lie down. One is based on fear. The other is rooted in trust. But today, take Psalm 23 personally. Speak it over your home. Declare it over your calendar. Say it before every financial decision. Let the spirit of poverty be confronted by the presence of the shepherd who makes you lie down in green, not dry pastures. Because where God leads you is never lack. It's always life. Still waters are not just scenic, they are strategic. Psalm 23 says, he leads me beside still waters, not turbulent seas or polluted streams. Still waters represent peace, stability, and clarity. The spirit of poverty thrives in chaos. It feeds off confusion. It creates mental clutter, fear, and panic that keep you from hearing God's voice clearly. But where the shepherd leads, there is peace. Peace is not the absence of problems. It's the presence of divine order in the middle of life's battles. Still waters do not mean the world is quiet. It means your soul is. When your spirit is calm, you can discern better, decide better, and detect the schemes of the enemy faster. Now, have you noticed that poor decisions often come from chaotic emotions? People sign terrible contracts, enter toxic relationships, or give up on dreams because their minds were racing. That's why the shepherd leads you to still waters. Because clarity can only happen when your soul is at rest. Within months, his income hadn't increased dramatically, but his spending patterns changed. He no longer made emotional purchases. He no longer loaned money to please others. His peace became his financial compass. Still waters heal more than finances. They heal marriages, restore health, and renew focus. When you let the shepherd lead you beside still waters, you're saying, I don't need the storm to stop. I need the shepherd to speak. That's what Jesus did on the boat. He didn't just calm the storm. He calmed the hearts of the men inside it. The spirit of poverty wants your life to be one long emergency. But the shepherd says, follow me and I will give you peace that passes understanding. That peace is a weapon. It guards your heart and mind. It protects your family from panic decisions. It helps you steward opportunities instead of sabotaging them. Every household under spiritual poverty also suffers emotional instability. But when peace enters the home, order follows. Still waters restore clarity. You begin to think differently. speak differently, and expect differently. So, let this be your declaration. I will not be led by fear. I will not be driven by anxiety. The Lord leads me beside still waters, and in his peace I prosper. Restoration is not repair, it's renewal. Psalm 23 doesn't say he patches you up. It says, he restores my soul. The Hebrew word for restore here means to bring back to the original condition. The shepherd is not just trying to fix your finances. He's restoring you. The greatest asset in your house is not money. It's your mind. If your soul is broken, your decisions will be broken. If your self-worth is shattered, your earning potential is compromised. The enemy doesn't have to take your job if he can take your joy. He doesn't have to empty your account if he can empty your hope. God's answer to poverty starts with soul restoration. That's why Jesus said in Luke 4:18, he has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives. Poverty is not always a bank issue. It's often a bondage issue. A wounded soul will settle for less. A restored soul will pursue what is rightfully theirs. Let's consider a woman named Tanya who grew up hearing, we're just not meant to be rich. Money is for other people. That mindset stayed with her into adulthood. She never applied for better jobs. She never invested. She tithed out of obligation, not revelation. But one day while reading Psalm 23, the phrase, he restores my soul, hit her. She wept. Years of financial fear and inherited lies began to unravel. She started seeing herself differently. She pursued certifications, negotiated salaries, and started teaching her children the truth about God's provision. The restoration of her soul unlocked the restoration of her finances. To restore means to give back what was stolen. The enemy has stolen confidence, dreams, vision, and discipline from many homes. But the shepherd is saying, I'm not just giving you money, I'm giving you back. That's where true prosperity begins. So don't just ask for bills to be paid. Ask for your soul to be made whole, because a healthy soul attracts healthy finances, healthy relationships, and healthy purpose. When your soul is aligned with the shepherd, you no longer chase resources, you attract them through divine order. Righteousness is not just about being morally good. It's about being aligned with the ways of God. Psalm 23 says, he leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. That means God has a path, a system for prosperity that honors his name. The spirit of poverty, on the other hand, creates detours and shortcuts that lead to cycles of lack. The path of righteousness protects you from the spirit of poverty because it teaches you to build, not beg. It teaches you to grow, not gamble. It aligns you with the system of heaven, not the schemes of the world. So let this be your confession. I will follow the shepherd on the path of righteousness. I will not be lured by shortcuts. I will prosper in a way that brings honor to his name. Poverty thrives on fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of not having enough. But Psalm 23 says, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. That's bold. That's spiritual warfare. The spirit of poverty loses power when you walk through darkness without bowing to fear. Fear causes people to play small, to avoid risk, to reject God-given opportunities, to stay in toxic jobs, or delay launching God-inspired businesses. But when you fear no evil, you move in obedience, not in hesitation. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's the presence of conviction. I remember a young couple, Anna and Chris, who felt led to start a Christian daycare in their community. Everything around them screamed lack. They had little capital, limited experience, and plenty of opposition. But they kept declaring Psalm 23. They walked through that valley with confidence. Today, that daycare is a thriving center that employs over 30 people and serves hundreds of families with biblical values. Why? Because they didn't wait for fear to lead. They walked with faith. Every time you choose courage over comfort, you deal a death blow to the spirit of poverty. Because fear builds walls, but faith opens doors. Let this be your stand. I will not fear the valley. I will not delay my destiny. My shepherd is with me, and I walk in courage, not lack. Provision doesn't require perfect circumstances. Psalm 23 says, you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. That's provision in the middle of pressure. That's abundance in adversity. The table represents everything you need: food, opportunity, honor, visibility, and it's not hidden. It's in the presence of enemies, doubt, poverty, criticism, delay. God is not afraid to bless you publicly. The spirit of poverty tells you to hide, shrink, and survive. But God's table says, come sit. You belong here. Real prosperity is not when your enemies disappear. It's when you're blessed despite them. I met a woman named Celeste who worked in a hostile office. She was overlooked, underpaid, and mistreated, but she kept serving with excellence. One day, the regional manager visited, saw her work, and promoted her past her own supervisor. The table was set. Her enemies had to watch